Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Good morning.
Good morning to you too.
Well,
I guess good evening. Good
I
evening, good
know it's okay.
afternoon.
No, just like I hope. Well, I hope it's not too early for you.
No, it's fine.
All right, because you proposed 5 a.m. I was like, well, that's a little bit too early. I definitely don't want to inconvenience you. How are you? How are the kids? How's everyone?
They're good. I just sent them off to school and then hopped on here.
Oh, that's great. I'll bless them, inshallah. I was just telling them that because I literally write questions for Mr. Right. And then I was like, well, here's the thing. Women are not always right. So sometimes we also know, a man also wants to know if the woman is right for them or not. So these questions, hello, that's Mr. Right. Hi. So he's like, yeah. He's rooting for the guys. He's there to defend them. How are you? Hi there. I have a soft spot for kids. I could literally just finish the life with him and I'm talking about you. All right. So yeah, as I said, like the questions go both ways. And what happened is that during that period where men get to know women and women get to know men, they ask all sorts of questions. Like in my part of the world, in Arab countries, sometimes that period usually lasts years, not even months. And then she's like, oh, okay, when are you going to propose? And he's like, that was never, for example, my intention. And she feels really bad and she feels tricked. But the truth is, had she asked that question 5 years ago, they would have, because he didn't have the intentions, and that was pillar number one topic. So it's important not to just ask questions, not to just have a conversation, but to ask the right questions. And that's where we are here today. And we have Zahra Al-Jabri joining us from California, USA. I think I fell in love with your story the first time I saw it, and then with your book, well, and the rest is, I guess, is history. If you haven't seen her story, I would say go ahead, please, and see it again, because it resembles that of many Muslim women in the past ones, and I'm sure future ones will also go down that road. Being single, feeling so down and pressured and not knowing what to do, and then going to being married and empowered and having a beautiful family, mashallah. So what's the shift? What's the transformation that happened between that version and the current one?
I would say the main shift is really appreciating for yourself, like what it is that you want. That we all have dreams for how we think our life is going to be, what we're going to achieve, what we're going to accomplish, who we're going to marry, what that whole thing is going to look like. And for most of us, whatever our dream is, if we were to say the fullness of it out loud, people would be like, whoa, like, who, you can't have that? Like, you can't have all of those things, like, who, and it could be your parents and your friends and like, people who love you would be like, I don't, how are you going to do that, that, and that, and that? Like, that doesn't fit together. And the shift is really being like, well, why not? Why not? Right? Like, if I believe in Allah, if I can make dua, if I am hardworking and talented and smart and considerate and kind and loving, why couldn't I put this thing that I have in my mind and my heart together and have it? And I think that main shift of like, you know what, I'm going to hold out for that. I'm going to look for that. I'm going to try for that. And if it's not that, I'm willing to walk away or to say no or to wait.
I love that. I love that. Because I was your current version before. I always kind of knew the kind of person I wanted to have in my life, and I knew the life. And my family's like, but it's not working and it's impossible, and that just doesn't seem, you're asking for too much. That's just you being too demanding. And what I did was like, at some point, it's like, maybe I'm being too demanding. Let me see if, maybe if I won't say compromise, but then if I would negotiate a bit of it. And trust me, the minute you lower your expectations, or the minute you lower those things that you know you deserve, you end up with something far worse and far less than what you truly deserve. And then you realize you shouldn't have budged in the first instance. So that happened to me, and I was like, no, 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 no. I know what I want. And as you said, it's in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not in your hands. It's not in my hands. So,
and the reason why it hurts so much to negotiate or compromise or lower your standards, however you want to put it, is that, you know, if we're talking about marriage, you see a guy, and then you start talking to them and you realize it's not really the lifestyle you were trying to live, or the, you know, whatever it is, something about how they view life, or their politics or their work is not really what you wanted. But you're like, well, they have these other 10 things that I do want. So, you know, let me be reasonable. Let me negotiate. Since I get these 10 things, I'm going to let these other 2, 3 things that I want go.
Right, yeah.
And then you move forward. And what happens, it's not that, you know, those 10 things aren't actually that great, or that those 3 things are, you know, so terrible that they don't have it. It's the feeling that you have within you that is going to make you look at this relationship like, I let go of my dreams for that. Happens in this relationship, it's just like, you just feel within yourself like, ugh, like I did this to myself. Like I let go. I knew this wasn't everything that I wanted, and I let go of it, and I'm just forcing myself to go along. And after a while, you just get fed up with your own self. It's not even that you're fed up with them, because you knew exactly what you were walking into. You decided to negotiate. And after a while, you're like, why am I negotiating? I don't like this. Why did I say that I could like this? And so that's what's most, what I don't think many women or men or whoever, when you're negotiating, what you really appreciate when you make that compromise, it's not that you're gonna, you know, feel necessarily any different towards those people, towards the person you're with, is that you're slowly building your resentment towards yourself. Like, why am I feeling like I have to be the one to change and to compromise and to put up with all of these things, until you reach a point where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore, right? And that's that classic line, it's not you, it's me. And because it's really true, it's like, it's me, like, I did this.
Yeah, it's true. And as women, I won't say we are forced, but then we are always pressured to be the ones doing the compromising. It's just like, yeah, but then, you know, and it's like, it's not just a big deal. A man is a man. And again, coming from an Arab background, we are told and we are taught, and we have this programming that there's nothing really wrong with a man. I mean, if he asks you, it's an honor, and you're supposed to just, you know, jump and say yes. He has 2 legs, he has 2 eyes, he's fine. Khalas. He sees, he walks. What else are you asking for? But then, I mean, I definitely don't spend too much like effort trying to explain this to my grandmother and to my mom. But then it's not just this, especially for women. And I know you talk about this so much, and that's one of the reasons I love, and I always tune into your videos. Now, I know there's so much to talk about, and this definitely won't be, hopefully, the only life we'll have together. But then going into the book, I can tell you, I think I found you, and I found about your book during Ramadan. And that was something I was praying about. Because when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, I could not have come at a better timing. And I read so many like great things, and I was like, oh my, this woman has just been like an Allah sent person to me. And then obviously I read the book, and I was like, well, I definitely have, I now have a quote that is my all-time favorite. It beats Jane Austen, and it beats all that fictional stuff that we've been reading, because it's true. And it's from when your husband went to Hajj, and it said he went to Hajj, and he prayed that he would have Zahra as his wife. And I think for me, that's the ultimate romantic gesture. Like, put aside whatever Das he says or anyone. But then the book, I would say, every single woman, every single man, people who are trying, I think even married couples, because communication does not really go well at times, even within a married couple, should definitely go give it a try. How did the idea of it come about, and what's the effect like? Because I'm raving about it. I'm sure other people are raving about it. So, what is some of the just the feedback that you've been getting so far?
Yes, I mean, the feedback has been amazing, alhamdulillah. And it really came about because um, exactly what you said before, right? Women are pressured to get married, and like just any man, like, oh, he's interested in you, like just go have him, just accept him or whatever. And it's this idea and notion that marriage for a woman is so important and such a benefit to her, and makes her, completes her life. Oh, now, alhamdulillah, my daughter is married, my sister is married, they're married, like you just like you feel like you can forget about them.
Mission
I did my
accomplished. Yes.
mission accomplished, the woman is married, yes. And it's like, well, okay, like if it's supposed to be this huge amazing thing for most women, but then the reality that most women are experiencing is that they get married, and now all of a sudden they are just, expected to be cooking and cleaning all day long, or, managing all of the household and all of the activities and all of the outfits and all of the social events and getting all the gifts for his family, and they're hosting. And so it just becomes that you're like a servant. And so women are looking at it and like, you're telling me that this is the greatest thing for me, that, oh my gosh, you need to get married, you need to get married, you need to get married. But then when I look around at all the married women, it just seems like they're servants. I don't want that. Like, I'm fine by myself. I have to do my own household chores, but I also get to enjoy and live life. I'm not just a servant to someone else and their whole family. So this book really is coming about because over time, and it's not just in the Muslim community, it's across the world, people are having these discussions, that being a wife has gone back to that more patriarchal view of a woman as just, beholden to a man and taking care of him. And for modern women who really appreciate, and many of them are having amazing lives right now, their careers are excelling, they have social circles that are so good, they're going on girls' trips, their relationship with their own family is so good, and they're like, okay, now I want to add a man into my life, I do want to experience love, I do want to have that romantic connection, I do want to start a family, but I don't want it to be a downgrade. I don't want it to take away from the already great stuff I have going. So how can I make sure that this is an upgrade, right? That me adding this person, this lover, is going to upgrade my life and not downgrade it. Yeah. That really can only come from having a dialogue of like, what does this relationship mean to you and me? What do we want it to look like? How are we going to set it up? How are we going to be together? How do we talk to one another? How do we disagree? And so the book came about because we firmly believe, my husband and I believe, that it is possible to have that great partnership, love and relationship, that the two people are entering into a relationship on the same level of respect and concern and care and commitment for one another. It doesn't mean that they're going to be doing the same duties or doing the same things, right? If we think about the Prophet ﷺ and Khadija radiallahu anha, right? They're living in a traditional Arab community society, but the respect and care that we hear about through all of the hadith and all of the stories is very, very abundant and clear. In no way was Khadija like looking down on Muhammad because, like, this is before he's a prophet.
Richer,
like,
yeah.
Oh, you work for me, like, you should be so lucky that, I'm giving you the job and now you get, to inherit my family's wealth or whatever, like looking down on him. And likewise, Muhammad, peace be upon him, again, before prophethood, he is not saying like, oh my gosh, Khadija, you should be so, grateful that you older woman, widowed, like that I accepted to marry you and I'm a young, handsome guy, like, they're not trying to one-up each other and like, having this kind of notion of like, my family is so prestigious, look what the car I drive, look. Whereas that's kind of a lot of the mentality in Arab community and Desi community, in all the communities. It may come to, you're sizing up each other and you're sizing up each other's family.
Yeah.
And
you're focusing on the wrong things, basically.
Exactly. And that's not our example. So when you come at it from this really like, okay, I'm a person, you're a person, are we a good fit together? And are we going to just be evaluating each other with honesty and respect and really looking to build our own thing together? It can be amazing and beautiful and transformative, which is the example of the Prophet ﷺ and Khadija radiallahu anha. And that's what really motivated us to write the book. We've been thinking about this book for a very long time. And after having so many conversations with people,
Voice broke up, I guess.
Sorry.
Oh, yes.
Who are just deep person stuff. We really appreciated that, especially in modern times, we don't really know how to have the conversations.
No.
People will go out, okay, you know, we're going to go out on a halal date. We're going bowling with our friends. And you're just chit-chatting, how was school, how was work, what do you do, what's your family like? Oh my gosh, he's kind of cute. And you tell your friends later, he was kind of cute, he was nice, you know, he held the door open for me, blah, blah, blah. And so you don't really get to like have then you talk on the phone and you're talking on the phone. Okay, well, what to think about this? Where would you want to live? What's your favorite type of vacation? What's, you know, what's the food that you like to eat? Do you know how to cook? Blah, blah. And it's just these kind of surface level things that you just, okay, you know about them, but you don't really know deeply, you know, deeply about how a person thinks, what motivates them, what are their values, how do they prioritize things in their life. And it's really just because we're unfamiliar with having those conversations. In many Muslim households and many households in general, we have surface level conversations with our parents. They ask you, how's your day? Fine. You don't get into the drama and the thing and your friend said that and this, oh, it's gossiping. I don't want to hear it, right? So you don't have the experience of having meaningful conversations with your parents. You don't have experience of having meaningful conversations with your siblings. You're not really doing it with your friends. Maybe you'll vent here and there, but your friends don't know how to help you. They have their own problems. So you have no experience ever anywhere of having like a deep conversation. And then all of a sudden you're supposed to have that conversation with a guy that you've never met, a person of the opposite sex that you may also be totally unfamiliar with having a conversation with a person of the opposite gender. And it's supposed to be deep and meaningful, and you're supposed to make a decision to spend the rest of your life with this person.
Yeah.
And you have no idea how to do it. That's why we wrote the book, because you can do it and it doesn't have to be so painful and awkward and uncomfortable. I mean, it will be a little bit, but if you approach it in an open, lighthearted way, you can make it enjoyable.
It's true, because that was something that I wanted to talk about. So communication is not just about exchanges like, how are you, how is the weather, do you like the sunny or the cloudy one? And then people think that just because they are chatting on the phone or they are going on halal dates and they are having these exchanges, it means that they are getting to know each other. But then that's not communication. Communication goes beyond those simple exchanges into actually asking the right questions about each other. Because again, I don't want you to be spending 1 year, 2 years, a few months talking to a guy and thinking they are showing interest, or them thinking interest, and then expecting a ring, or expecting someone to say yes to you, and then be surprised that they never had that in mind, because you did not even bother asking that question, which is the important question in the first place. You know about all of the favorite colors and the favorite dishes, but you don't really know about the right things. And communication, these exchanges, they are an investment, and we want that relationship to be halal. We want it to be done in an Islamic and an Allah blessed way. And that's why, because people usually say like, oh, we struggle and then we don't really know what to talk about, and then we end up with feelings. Cut it short, go straight to the point, ask the right questions, and then you would know if you go to the feelings part and if you go to the rings part and all of that. So how do we ask the right questions? Because obviously some people is like, oh, 150 questions, that's a lot of questions. Like, well, don't worry, some people will be knocked out in phase one, topic one, and then they're out. So not everyone is going to make it to topic like 10 or topic 7 or even to the 19th one. But then you're having a conversation, obviously, and women, in a way, we get attached a little bit too fast at times, I would say. Not all of us, obviously, but then women are emotional, and especially if they don't have, as you said, they're not used to having a conversation with a guy of the opposite sex, and they are looking for marriage and love and all of that. So they're having a conversation, they're getting to know this person. How do we get to ask the right questions without getting too invested and ultimately hurt?
Yes, yes. So we wrote the book. We also, the book, when you buy the book, it comes with a recorded Q&A session we did with it. So to support you and answer some of these questions that we're talking about here. But in addition to that, I also have a session that I did on how to have these conversations. What are the topics to do? So I have a whole hour-long session that goes through and outlines for people exactly how to approach it, especially if you have felt like, I was talking to someone before, I was engaged before, like, what am I doing wrong? Like, how come things keep not going anywhere, or they keep saying they're committed and then leaving, or, we get engaged and then they break up with me and they get married to someone else a month later, like, what's happening? So I would highly recommend that session.
Wrong with me? Usually that's what women ask. Is something wrong with me?
Yes, yes. And the issue is that there's nothing wrong with you. However, there is a shift that you'll need to make in your approach. And so the main shift is that in the beginning, you want to be more professional. And what that means is like kind of treating it like a job interview, right? That you're coming in and, even if it's like your dream company to work for at a job, you're not going to start there gushing and whatever, like, oh my God, I really want to work here and I love this company. You're going to come in,
desperate, yeah.
you don't want them to know that, and you're going to want to make sure about all of the terms still first, like what is the pay, what is the salary, what are the hours of work, how much vacation. You're still going to be asking all those things, because even though you would love to work there, if it turns out that like it's terrible conditions, you might change your mind. So the same thing, he might be this dreamy guy, he's so handsome, the most amazing family, the great job, whatever. You still want to come in with a professional mindset. Okay, well, tell me how you really feel about this and about that, and what do you think about these things? So that's number one, is to start off more professional.
Start out professional, ladies.
Yes. Right, and people don't like that, because we want to start out cute and flirty and like, okay, like, but that's the way that we're gonna.
We try not to get too involved, too attached.
Exactly. Yes. That's where you're gonna catch feelings. And then when you find out that like, oh, it's terrible working conditions and there's no vacation and no whatever, you're still like, well, maybe it's going to work out, and it's not going to work out.
No.
So number one is to be professional. Number two is to understand what is your most important thing, right? So like if we're comparing it to a job interview, if your most important thing is like, vacation time, or your most important thing is the healthcare benefits because you have some health condition, right? You're going to be really sure to ask about that.
I'm just trying to tell people, we are not really talking about jobs, but then we are just using the analogy to get the point across. That's it.
Yes. We're using the analogy of work because it's very similar, and it's easier for us to think about. It doesn't come with all the baggage that relationships come with, right? Yeah. So if you're in the interview and they tell you about the healthcare benefits and that's not going to work for you, you're going to ask more. Like, well, what about this? Or can you do that? Or blah, 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 right? And all of those things. And that's the same thing that you're going to want to do when you are talking with someone for marriage. What are the most important things to you? Is it where you're going to live? Is it, their healthy lifestyle? Maybe your family has a lot of, maybe you have conditions that you need to be closely managed. Maybe you're diabetic or something, and it's, you don't want to be with someone who constantly is eating sugar and sweets all day, because it's just going to make it hard for you. So you really want to understand, what is your diet like? What is your healthy lifestyle like? Because this is really important to me, because if I used to hang out with a group of friends who just ate whatever and it took a toll on my health, and I want to be with a partner that is going to honor my
Okay.
healthy lifestyle and want to engage in it with me so we can get more healthy together, not less healthy. So if that's something that's super important to you, it's not later in your list that you ask it. It's the first few things that you ask, right? After you figure out, like, are they serious? What are their intentions? Then you go straight to your most important topic. If it's most important to you, like, I don't want to live with, in-laws. You ask that in the beginning then.
Yeah.
Do your in-laws expect to live with you? And really understand and hash it out so that if it's most important, how much money they're making, or what is the lifestyle, then you ask that in the beginning. And here's where the thing, it's again like that analogy of if you have a crush on a guy, it's so hard to talk to them, but a guy that you don't care about, like, you could go talk with them for hours, like, whatever, you can ask them for help or do homework with them or whatever. But when you like them, you're like, oh my God, I can't even say hi to them. You're just like nervous. And it's the same thing with our important topics. Our important topics, like, oh my God, health is so important to me, or money is so important to me, or whatever is so important to me. We're like, oh my God, I can't ask about that, because if I get the answer that is not aligned with me, that you're going to have to break it off. Because this topic is so important to you, right? Let's say we use the healthy one example, that you're a diabetic and you have to manage and all of these things that you have to be so mindful of. And this person tells you, like, oh man, my genetics, alhamdulillah, mashallah, I don't have to worry about those things. I just eat whatever I want. I stay up late eating sweets and snacks all night. And you like everything else about them. It's going to be so hard.
It's true.
You're going to feel so, like, trapped. So that's why if you keep it professional and you ask that most important topic in the beginning, guess what? You're not already wrapped up in those feelings yet. So you have more of a clear head to be like, okay, this isn't a good fit for me. On the outside, yes, if we use the company example, on the outside, this company looked amazing. But once I come in, if I work at this company, it's going to be bad for my health. It's going to be bad for my life.
Yeah, I think let's start with your deal breakers. One of the most prominent cases and examples I know have happened with women is that, is he okay with me working? And they don't ask that first. Sometimes they wait until they get engaged, and then he's like, oh, but I don't want for my wife to work. And it's just like, but then we're engaged, and it turns into a whole war, and she either has to concede and give up her work, obviously, with grudges, or they end up breaking up things, or he will have to, like, she's too beautiful, so I'll let her, or I'll tell her that I'm okay, but then once she's my wife, this is like, no, I changed my mind. But then you ask that question round one, and you get your answer round one, and you tell them, it's like, well, I'm sorry, but then that for me is a deal breaker. So if you want to allow your wife, and then that's something that's important for me, well, that's it. It's kind of over, and it's okay to say no, and it's okay to end things.
Yes.
No headaches.
And in that example of, like, yeah, well, are you asking a man, are you okay with your wife working? People also say then, well, what if he's lying to me? What if he's just pretending he's being okay, and then once we get married, like, he's going to switch, right? And so here, I want women to really feel empowered to be able that you can check. There are clues to how a person really thinks. So if this guy is sweet talking you, oh yeah, I'm totally cool with you working. I totally know that, you've got this great career. I respect that. I want you to work. We can be cooking meals together. Some days I'll cook. We can order out. No worries about it. I won't be expecting you to just be at home, cooking or whatever, or cleaning. I understand. We'll get a housekeeper. We can cook together. And you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is exactly what I wanted. Yes, he's all these other things, and he's cool with me working, and we're going to be splitting the housework. Oh my God, this is great. Okay. So it sounds good. And now you're feeling like, oh, but is this really, is he really mean it? Because I don't know. So there's several ways that you can check. So your first check is to ask him about his own family. So how did you grow up? What do your parents do? He tells you, my mom stayed home and raised us all, and she never had a career, and she never whatever. This is your first, okay, well, his personal experience is of a wife, of a mother, being at home maker, doing all of the things. Oh, did your mom ever work, or did she study in school? You find out a little bit, right? And again, here,
Did your father help out? Yeah, you try to find out.
Yeah. How much was your father at home? What was your experience? And you're just asking, we have a whole section in this of just asking questions about their upbringing. So you don't have to say that you're connecting it to, well, then you weren't going to want me to work. Like, you're not doing that. You're just hearing what they grew up with, because it's also very true that he could be telling the truth, but you just are getting your check. So that's your first check, is to understand how he grew up. What was the model of husband and wife in his childhood? Then you're going to ask them about their siblings or their cousins, right? Do you have any siblings who are married? Do you have any close cousins who've gotten really married? What do you like about their relationships? What do you say? Oh, you know, my cousin got married, 2 years ago, and it's been so great to see whatever. And he names things. Or he's like, oh, his wife is always working, and it's like really crazy that they, are never. And if you hear him complaining about a working wife of someone else, that's a check for you. That's a clue. Like, okay, he said he was okay, but he's seeing someone else doing it, and he's like, it's really hard on them. She's always working, and I feel so bad for my cousin. He's the one who always is having to cook dinner and blah, blah, blah. You're like, all right. So it doesn't sound, like you would be whatever. So, but again, you don't need to be relating it to yourself, right? Because you're trying to check. So you don't want to let them know that you're checking.
Don't tip them off.
Don't tip them off. And then third way to check is for you to point out relationships or couples that you admire. It could be personal people that you know, or maybe it's someone you follow on social media that you don't actually know.
Could be the Prophet ﷺ and his wives. Plenty of examples there as well.
Yeah, something in a book, I was reading this book and they were talking about the relationship and this was like this and it was so amazing. And then he will reflect back something like, oh, well, it doesn't really sound that great, or this does sound great. And that's how you will understand if what they said and what they actually feel inside are the same. And once you've gathered enough clues of how they actually feel, then you come back to the conversation. So remember we talked about before about, me working or whatever. I just wanted to check in again here because we had talked about your brother and his wife and your cousin and his thing, and it sounded like, it sounded like this and it sounded like that. So I just want to get more clarity on what it would mean for you, or how we would actually do it so you wouldn't feel bad, or you would feel comfortable, right? Again, approaching it in a way like, I want to collaborate with you. I want to work together with you. I'm not trying to call you out. I'm not trying to prove that, you said one thing, but you think another. Because listen, we're doing it too.
It's not
we are doing it too.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Girls are doing the same thing. We say we want the rich, handsome, tall guy, right? And then when, girls are coming up to them, hitting on them, like, oh my God, how come you you talk to that woman or whatever? He's like, I just am talking. Like, we do the same thing, that we think we're okay with one thing and we actually aren't. So in all of this, you want to be gentle and compassionate and really understanding. Like, the main thing about the courtship process is that it is going to expose for your own self what you actually think, right? Because it might also be, as you are saying, as a woman, and you're saying, I want to work and I don't, whatever. And then as you're actually talking and you're like, oh, and I want to be able to, I love to bake on Fridays and da-da-da-da. And you might be realizing like, oh, actually, I don't want to work, right? Like, once I get married, like, wait a minute, I don't want to work, right? He's going to ask you about, how did you grow up? Yeah, my mom was at home and I loved it. And she was there for us every day. And she picked us up after school. And it was so great. And I really wish I could do that for my children. Was like, but you said you wanted to work. How are you going to be there every day to pick up the kids from school? And then you're going to have to be like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
What do I? And you will have to do the same activity. So it's not that you're trying to out them or they're trying to out you. It's that you're both using each other to end up finding out what is actually really inside. And if you can do this in a compassionate way, it's amazing and empowering for both of you.
That's beautiful. I saw someone write a comment above, and this is related. Well, it was like way above. I don't think we definitely lost it.
Okay.
But then it was about you can't really sometimes you can't really get, well, you can't expect to get to know someone if you don't know yourself first, if you don't have that, I won't say maturity, like full maturity, but then at least level of self-awareness. Because as you said, you cannot really be telling a guy, I want to work, and then have an entire fight about him saying, I don't want my wife to work, and then realize you don't even want to work. So like with these questions, these are things that you need to know about yourself, because you're going to ask them the questions, but they will ask you the same as well. You will have to answer. So you need to know, and not just on a surface level, and not just give, or what is it that you think is the ideal thing. You need to know for yourself. And even if there is no guy, I would say these questions are good, and they're also good pointers and guidelines for the ladies themselves to show you where do you stand on these things. Sometimes they will, I don't know, help you discover your own values and your own standards, just in case you are not quite that self-aware of those things. So I would say, take a moment to check the questions and ask them yourself. Why do, like, it's about work. I want to, like, because you said, check what are your priorities. So if your priority is work, like, well, I want to work. Why do I want to work? Where is this coming from? Because when you want to, again, communicate and convey that answer to someone else, you want it to be coming from a place of actual true knowledge of yourself, and not just, you know, something that came up during a conversation with your friends. It's like, oh, women have to work and have to do this. And then you just, you know, repeat it in front of him, but then have to explain or end up contradicting yourself, because that would also make you look bad. Like, oh, she doesn't even know what she wants. She's contradicted.
And, well, part of that is to be okay with not having a single answer, right? To be okay with, you know what? I really love the idea, or I really love the work that I'm currently doing. And I get a lot of enjoyment from, you know, from my job and from going out with my coworkers and the collaboration that we do. And maybe I travel for work or whatever it is. I really love that. But I do have some conflict within me, because I also love the experience of seeing, or how I see my sister being, and, you know, she's able to stay home and take care of her kids. So I love both. So I'm a little bit torn. I'm a little bit in between, because I want to have my own space and my own autonomy, but I also want to be able to, you know, be there to do all of these different things for my family. You can say that. You can say that you have this conflict, this tension within you. You can show, basically, the whole point of these conversations is to show that you are a real full person with a full range of thoughts and contradictions and conflict that you are trying to work out. You don't have to be, okay, I need to know the answer. This is the way that I want it. And oh my God, I'm going to be held to this answer for the rest of my life, or whatever. You could say, I want to work up until when I have kids. And once they start school, I want to be able to go back to work, right? Or whatever. And you could say, like, this is all how I see it now, based on how the world is now. But if things change, or if there's another pandemic, or things are like this, I would have to re-examine all of these things. The point here, and we say this in the book, but you know, it's a point that might be subtle for people to miss. The point here is not actually the answers to your questions. It is not actually the answer to the questions, your answer or their answer. It is the conversation. It is you explaining your thought process. You explaining, it's important for me to be autonomous, but it's also important for me to be able to serve my family. That tells you so much about a person.
True.
As opposed to, I like to work. I like money. Everyone likes money. Like, that's not telling me anything. Like, but understanding that tension, or, you know what? I saw my mom get really burnt out and become resentful to my dad because he was never home. And I don't want that to happen to me. And so I am really mindful of that. How can you work as a man? How can you work, but also still have time for us as our own relationship? Yeah. And not just that we are making lots of money and taking care of kids, but we don't have our own relationship, because I saw that happen with my parents. That's a level of depth. You don't know the answer. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to work and who's not going to work. But you're having a conversation now about how you actually feel, what your fears are, what your desires are. And that conversation, the way you two engage in that conversation, reflect back to each other, is going to let you know, is this a person that I can do this dance with, that we can figure that out when that moment comes? Or is this a person that, like, the way they're responding, like, yeah, well, you know, what do you expect? Man has to work every day, and if he has a job that's far away and he has this commute, like, you can't expect him to also have time to be able to sit with his wife and blah, blah, blah. And he's just dismissing and not getting to the point that, you know, you're trying to make it, how are we going to negotiate this? He's just like, okay, well, this is the way it is, da, 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 or that's just silly. Okay, fine, we can have one weekly date night. And the way he's talking to you and the way he's coming about it and the way he's like, well, this is what we should do and blah, blah, blah. And you're just like, you're just feeling like, right, this is when people say, I don't feel heard, right? He's not hearing the depth of the conversation. The depth of the conversation is, life is busy and messy for everyone. How are we going to stay connected and be a team when life is busy? Instead, he's hearing you say, basically he's hearing you say, are we making time? Are we going to have enough date nights? And that's not really the point, right? That's not really the point. And that's why we share this in the book, and we're working on a revised edition, so I don't know how, and we're getting more and more feedback on how this lands. But the issues, the questions in the book are not really about the questions. It's about having this dialogue so that you can see how they think and how they respond and how you communicate together on all of these different topics that bring up different emotions and feelings and fears and worries.
It's true. One of the things that I think both parties might expect is that, well, if we are asking these questions, then we're getting right answers, or we're getting the truth and we're getting that. But then this is something you also talked about in the book, said, like, it's not really about having the same or matching answers, because sometimes someone is just telling you what you want to hear. Yes, yes. And it goes both ways. It's not just the men, women also do that. So how do we, because it is an indicator, and to sometimes you go through 5, 6, 7 different topics and you think, wow, I like their answers. It seems like we're compatible and we agree on so many different things, and then things change overnight and everything's just like, okay, what went wrong? So how can we, I guess, hear the answers, have the conversation, but then without being misled into, just like, okay, khalas, this one is the one. They are the one for us. They check all the boxes. They are saying all the right things. How do we do that? Okay. This is a great question. But hold on, I need to plug in my phone. Let me get my charger. Okay, go ahead. Because like, one of the topics, by the way, let me just give you like a few ideas about it. First topic is intentions, because when someone is talking to you, getting to know you, obviously for marriage, you want to know what is it that you want, because women usually are a bit more serious and they're expecting marriage, but then you're talking to the guy and he just wants to talk. He's fooling around, or he's exploring his choices. He has 10 other girls that he's talking about. So intentions as the first topic. Although Zahra says, like, you don't have to do them in order, but I think the order sounds a little bit logical, especially with the intentions. So you want to go straight to the point. Are they looking to get married, or are they looking to fool around? Coming back to you. Hello. Yes. Well, I will say for that, yes, intentions is first. You have to do intentions, and then the rest of the sections you can do in any order you want. You have to do intentions first. Okay, so to your question of matching, if you're aligned. So if matching answers don't always mean compatibility, exactly. And whenever someone says to me, we've never fought, we've never argued, it's a red flag. That is a red flag. Because either red. Yeah. I mean, it's like a Turkish flag, because it's like, it's very red. Red flag. We've never fought, we've never argued. Either means A, you're not talking about anything meaningful.
all of your conversations are so superficial that you don't even get to a place where you have disagreement or tension or differing points of view.
Yeah.
So you're not having meaningful conversations. Or B, one of you is lying. One of you is lying, or both of you are lying.
Yeah,
and it could even be, it can be a subtle lie that you don't appreciate. I've used this example, before, but let's say, you meet someone and they're telling you that, in a couple of years, they want to move to a farm. They want to move to a farm and be able to grow their own food and to, raise animals and whatever, because the way the food industry is going and all of these things, they want to get back closer to nature.
Yeah.
And let's say that is not at all what you want to do. You're like, oh my God, like, I don't want to live on a farm, right? You really don't. You feel it inside when they're telling you this, you're like, no. But you also are hearing how they're saying it. They're like, I want to be able to grow my own food naturally, and I want to, raise animals in the halal way so that I know that they're halal and be able to eat. And it sounds beautiful. It really does sound so beautiful. Like, wow, this person like cares so deeply that they're going to make this commitment to live in this way that is in such an honor of like the sunnah and the tradition, and to be mindful of the planet. And so in your mind, you're thinking, well, I could do that. Like, I could do that. And it is a nice idea. It is so environmentally friendly. I would have healthier food. But you also know, like, I don't want to live on a farm. I want to have a house, and I want to drive a car, and I want to go to the city. And they're like, but so what do you say when they tell you this, I want to live on a farm, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, I could see in a couple of years, yeah, I could see that happening. And you never share your true opinion that is not the lifestyle that you want.
Yeah.
You are lying. You are lying. Even though, yes, it is true. It could work. You may like it. You may be interested in it. Maybe in a couple of years, it is something that you want to do. But right now, in this moment, as it's being shared with you, you would not want to do it. You are lying. So if you say then, we have not gotten into an argument, right? That would have been a point of a disagreement. You could say, you can have that conversation again, right? It's not the answers to the questions. It's the conversation that it's bringing up. It's an opportunity for you to share, like, yes, I do care about the environment, and I do care about halal food, and I do care, that my vegetables don't have pesticides and all of these things. But the lifestyle that I want to live, like, I don't think I'm cut out for the farm life, to be waking up at 4 a.m. and like, taking the hay and whatever, like running a tractor. Like, I don't feel like I'm cut out for it. And you can have that conversation. I want people to be really clear, because for many women, what it means when you don't have an argument, what it means is that you hide your true opinion.
Yeah.
You hide your true opinion. So you've heard their opinion.
And if you do it, then you're going to do it for the rest of your life.
Exactly. So you hear their opinion, and it's not so terrible, so that you're like, okay, yeah, sure, that could work. I could do it. And you compromise your position before you've even shared your position, right? Because normally a compromise is, here's what I want to do. I want to live on a farm. And your position is, I want to live in a city. And then you begin to compromise. But what they're doing is, I want to live on a farm. You never say what you want to live, how you want to live. You just, okay, I'll compromise there. But it's not a compromise. You never shared your real opinion. You never gave your thing out. You just said, okay, that could work. And that's lying. That's lying. That's lying. I want really women to really appreciate that.
She said it.
You are
she said it. And
dishonest to yourself.
Yeah.
To yourself. To yourself.
Like, yeah. I don't. And I think that's the worst thing you could do. Lying to yourself. And thinking, I will see, and I think I can put up with it. If you don't feel good about it at first, I don't think it's gonna happen. And I will be honest, this is something I did myself. Mm-hmm. And that's how I knew. It's like, okay, I should not have done it back then, because that feeling and that no inside you does not go away.
Yes, and I love this person wrote, like, what did she say? Fazila said,
yeah.
My husband wanted a kitten and I didn't think it through. and then think of it as real, and I ended up giving him a kitten. And she's like, I don't like pets, right? Like it can be in something quote unquote small, but it all adds up. And when you do it in the small thing, when they say, you know, my husband actually does like kittens, and he wanted a cat, and I was like, I don't like pets. I don't like animals. We had a cat when I was little. I like, they just are too feisty. The way they jump, it just makes me nervous. I don't like cats. Just to share, right? Just to share. Like, that's the point, is for them to get to know your personality, your likes and dislikes, your opinions, your things. It won't make you,
that's what's going to
make you a bad person.
It won't make you a bad person.
Yes, and then to disagree.
You a wrong person either. Yeah.
Exactly.
You are. You don't like cats. You're not a cat person, and that's okay.
Yes. Okay, someone's saying this is such an important advice.
It is.
Read the book. If you want more advice, read the book.
Yes, go for it. And as you heard her said, like, it's not just the book. You get a book and you get a recording with Q&As that is 1 hour long. So you're getting a book, and you're getting
with me and my husband.
Yeah, you're getting a training, you're getting coaching. So what are you waiting for? So I think one of the things that I unfortunately come across a lot is that women say, there are no right men. I've changed and I know what I want and I want to do things differently, but I'm afraid and I'm scared, but because I see, and it's all wrong men. But I always tell them, like, if you see yourself as a right woman, and if you see yourself as a good woman, you should believe that there are good men out there as well, because that's just how it works. Allah will not put good men and then good women only, and then surround them with all sorts of bad men and the wrong ones, and that's just like, okay, you have to settle for one of these bad guys. So how do we shift, and how do we transform the narrative from there are no right men?
Yes. Well, part of it is like what I was just saying, like, of us being honest about what we want, right? In many ways, men have been able to be more mediocre because basically as women, we've lowered the bar for them. Like, oh, they're not going to be able to do that. There's no guy who wants to do that. And the guys are all sitting around thinking, okay, they don't think any of us need to cook, so let's not cook. Yeah. They don't think any of us need to do this, so let's not. So they're like, oh, they already like think that about us, so we'll just come in and confirm their beliefs.
Live up to it.
Yeah, live up to it, right? Instead of saying like, no, I know that there's, my dad cooks. I know that there's men who can cook. I know that there's men who will support their wives working. I know that there's men who, will help raise the children. Instead of saying that, we give them a pass. So the first is to just think and believe differently and look for examples as much as you can. As a relationship coach myself, my Instagram feed is constantly filled with men talking about how to be a better husband, and this is how I support my wife, and I take my children out to do this, and you should be doing household chores without being told. And so many, men Instagram accounts like telling other men how to be, better men, basically. So I see them. There are plenty of them. They're all over, right? So the first one is to change your belief around that. And then the second one is then to hold that standard. When you're talking to a guy, and you're mentioning the Arab community, and so you're like, okay, I know this is an Arab guy that I'm talking to. He probably doesn't want a wife who works. He probably doesn't want a wife, who does this and that. So the way that you're going to approach it, if you're really focused, like, oh man, he's going to be one of those types of guys, you're going to be like, are you okay with women working? You're going to say it in that way. That's going to be like, okay, she's going to be like, no, I'm not. As opposed to if you're like, you know what? I'm so excited to meet you, and especially in this modern age. And I know you're probably you're probably someone who really appreciates an independent woman who's able to work and also able to take care of the house. What is he going to say? He's going to be like, oh, she thinks I'm one of these guys who's like that. He's talking about, no, actually I'm not. I'm one of the jerks who doesn't want women to work, right? You're going to phrase it in a way that's going to make him want to rise up to the high view that you see of him. You're like, I see you. You seem like someone who's really following the Prophet ﷺ sunnah and would really appreciate a woman like Khadija, who was a businesswoman and all of that. And you know, that's how I see a relationship. Isn't that something you want? He's gonna be like, oh shit, right? Like, oh damn, like she's calling me out. What's he gonna say? No, I don't want to be like the Prophet. No, right? He's gonna say, I want to rise up. So when you have that belief that there are men like that, you're going to approach it like that and present it like that, which is going to make it more likely, as opposed to when you believe like he's not going to want me to work, right? Like the way you're, the whole tone
beforehand, yeah,
the whole tone and your whole energy and your whole attitude speaks before you speak. And if you already are having the energy of like, another whatever, he's gonna meet you right there. That's what you expect of me, because everyone, right? Like everyone wants to shrink to the lowest they can. We're all scared of having to give too much, right? It's like when you have a friend, or if your mom comes over or whatever, and if you've ever been around a person that holds you to high esteem, right? My mother-in-law is like that. Mashallah, my mother-in-law is, she's American, she's not Muslim, and she holds me to such high esteem that it is tiring when I'm with her, because when I'm with her, I have to live up to how she sees me. I have to be on top of it. I have to be whatever, because she's right. I can be that woman. And so, she thinks so well of me. She's like, oh my God, you've written that book. It's so great how you're helping the Muslim community, and, and you're doing these things for your children, and the way that you support James. Mm-hmm. And so whenever, I think about her, I'm around her, I have to live up to it, and it's exhausting, right? We all are kind of lazy, so we don't want to. So that's what we actually need from each other, from a spouse, is people who are going to hold us up higher, because that is how we grow.
That's just so beautiful. And then this is something that women may not see themselves, or they're just like, I will help the guy, or I am supposed, or I'm responsible for doing this. But it goes in both ways. It's a two-way street. You hold them up to a higher standards, and they do that for you as well. They don't get a free pass. It's something that you do for them, and then something that they do for you in return. It's not just, it's your responsibility as a woman. You are the nurturing, you're the caring, you're the loving one. Men can do it too.
Exactly.
And they should. And they should. If you have any questions for Zahra about the book, about our beautiful talk, go ahead and shoot them. We're going to open up a Q&A. This has been so wonderful, and I always assume that 5 questions will end up being like 30-minute long, but we've been talking for an hour almost now, and I'm enjoying it, and I know they're enjoying it. There's just so much to learn from this. And again, I'm hoping that this is not the last time that we see you and host you, inshallah. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and shoot them. You can just go ahead and write them there. In general, Sarah, if you would, I think, meanwhile, give us a few more ideas about the topics included in the book, because we spoke about intentions, and that should go first. Yes.
Yes, so the book has 17 different topics in it. And the first topic is intentions, and then we get into religion and about you and socializing, social media, health, career, finances. And we separate career and finances because they should be examined separately. Like, what is your passions for, your career ambitions, and how do you view money? Are two separate things. And like creativity and hobbies and what you do for fun, charity and legacy work, what's the legacy you envision yourself leaving? So we really cover, all the topics and aspects of life that are important for you to have a sense of, to know about another person, in order to feel like you're making an informed decision on, like, is this person aligned with me in enough ways that I feel comfortable moving forward. And again, in each topic, there's, at least 10 questions, and you don't have to ask all 10 questions in each topic, but we do suggest we do suggest asking some questions under every category, under every topic. And again, like you were already mentioning, that it doesn't mean for each person that you go through all the categories and as many questions as you can. It means that you start with what's most important, and wherever you find that like, this isn't going to work, you cut it off.
You stop.
You just cut it off.
Yeah.
And if you do this
don't
very
have to do
effectively,
it in one sitting, by the way. Like you're not asking 150 questions in one day over one call.
Yeah, at most you should, I mean, you just said it, right? You had a list of 5 questions for us to have during this hour, and it took the whole hour. And we don't recommend asking more than 3 to 5 questions in any one conversation, right? So if you only have a 10-minute phone call, you might just ask 1 question. If you're sitting around and you're chatting for, you know, a couple of hours doing an activity together, maybe you'll get to 5 questions. But it's not about racing through the questions. It's about the conversation that the questions are going to bring up. And then the most important thing is whenever you hear something that like, this is not going to work for me, and you keep discussing it, and you're like, okay, we're still not seeing eye to eye, that you end it then. Because if you've been professional and now you're discussing the important topics, as soon as you come to something that I am not aligned, you end. And that's going to allow you to eliminate people, you know, within 2-3 weeks. Like if you're asking the important questions by like the 4th, 5th conversation, you will know if they're a no. That's what I always say. You will be very clear if they're a no quickly. If they're a yes, you may never really find out. They're a full yes. You will just keep going like, okay, we went through all of the questions. Okay, I'm feeling comfortable. Okay, and then you just have to take that leap of faith to say yes, to, you know, get married. But you will know if they're a no. And again, look at your friends. Talk to your friends who are divorced or have gone through a breakup or whatever, and ask them, why did you get divorced? Why did you guys break up? And for many people, if not, I want to say, you know, 100%, but I will say 98% of people, they will tell you something that they knew in the beginning. You know, he told me he had this whatever thing, but we were going, and then we ended up 5 years later breaking up because of that thing that they told me in the beginning. Don't let that be you.
When we posted the video yesterday, I had someone write to me, she's like, this could not have come at a better timing, because my friend and I were just talking about our 3rd friend who got divorced because, well, I think she knew him and then something didn't happen and she did not know him well enough. Because I keep telling people, and then especially like people are really contradicted in Arab society, because like, well, we are Muslims and we are conservative, so we need to really keep it Islamic, but then they are together for a few months and they are talking, they are getting to know each other. They're not either asking the right questions or they are compromising, they're ignoring the red flags, and women do that a lot. I'm just like, khalas. I had a friend who discovered that her fiance was cheating on her. He had a girlfriend, and I said, she had already done like the I think she did the nikah, and she said, I don't want to get a divorce. I'm sorry, but I don't want to get a divorce. Wow. And it was just a divorce on paper because they have not really been married yet. And she's like, I'm sorry. I was like, are you crazy? Are you like, can you hear what you're saying? You are willing to live with a guy who's obviously cheating on you, and who probably has plans to bring his girlfriend over and marry her or whatever, instead of settling for that pain of being divorced, and you're just going to be divorced on paper.
Yeah.
And she could not do it. It was him who ended up the relationship.
Wow.
Yes. I was like, girl, you cannot really do that to yourself. And here's the thing, sometimes you are there for your friends or you're there for your clients, but they're just not that strong. And I think, alhamdulillah, that he was, a jerk enough that he ended up ending it. But then imagine, like, she had like the reddest flag of all red flags. She knew, she caught him red-handed. She was talking to the girlfriend like, yeah, but I don't want to be divorced. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Well, that really speaks to the mentality that the status of married is so much more prestigious than the status of single or divorced. So I rather, at least, even if he's cheating on me, he's not with me, he's a jerk, at least I can go around telling people, I'm married.
I'm married.
I'm married.
Yeah,
I'm a married woman. And it seems better than being single or being divorced, or like, you're still single. And, you know, and this is on us. This is on us as a community. Why are we doing this to women? You're not married yet? Like, we should not be asking women that question, because it makes the perception that something is wrong with me if I'm not married, or I am deficient if I'm not married, and I will be good or better, or people will value me more if I'm married. Because, you know, yeah, it's just, it messes up women. It messes up women, because in her mind now, she's like, it is worse for me to be divorced than to be married, and I don't want that stigma. And where does that idea come from? It's from what she's seen. She's seen divorced women being treated worse, and she doesn't want to be, she feels that that's going to be a worse life, living with the label divorced, than to live with a man who's actively, you know, deceitful to her. And that's really sad.
It's true, it's true. I spoke about this in my, I think in my second book, and also in over a TEDx talk, and I said, like, because usually we blame men, like we said, like, oh, but the men are doing this. But as you said, putting the pressure on fellow women, it's the mothers, it's the grandmothers, it's the aunts, it's the sisters and the cousins and the neighbors and your colleagues and your friends and people, random people and strangers. It's like, are you single? Well, how come you're not married? Well, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He wrote my rizq. Don't ask me. But then people, well, obviously don't ask that, don't have that comeback. And then people are like, yeah, but then that's like, I was called a feminist for saying this. It's like, you probably obviously don't understand the meaning of the word feminist, because I'm telling you, women, to get off of each other's backs and stop putting that pressure. Because again, my friend thought that it was better for her to marry a guy who was cheating on her than to get a divorce, or someone else who's in domestic violence, who's being abused. So she's like, oh, I better be beaten than divorced, or
to be divorced.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't see any questions, and I don't want to take more of your time. I want to conclude with a quick, just fun this or that, to know a little bit about you. So here's the typical first question. Zahra, tea or coffee? Which one is your favorite? Tea. Green or red? Like, there are so many colors.
Herbal, like mint.
Oh, all right, mint tea. Like, well, if we ever meet, I'll make you an Algerian green tea, like from the desert, like our signature desert tea. Are you a morning or a night person?
Morning.
Morning person, obviously. Seaside, mountains, and greenery.
Ooh, mountains.
Mountains, okay. So we always have people who's like this. Do you live nearby? There's a beach nearby.
I do live near a beach.
Yeah, so when you live near, it's like, yeah, khalas, I think I don't mind. I can have something else. But are you more of a flowers person or more of a candles person?
Ooh, flowers.
Flowers. All right. Everybody loves flowers. I won't ask which are your favorite, but if you want to share that you can just go ahead.
Orchids and lilies.
All right. Indoors, outdoors.
Indoors.
Movie night or date night?
Date night.
Date night. All right. Let me just go ahead and hand it and say, well, family vacation or couples vacation?
Couples. Oh my God. Have you met my kids?
I'm just going to say, I don't want the kids to hear you, but it's too late. Khalas.
I mean, yes, it's separate, but which would I prefer? Moms, women, we all need more by ourselves or couples vacations or friends vacations.
Definitely, yeah. Time alone. You're more of a like cold weather, warm weather lover?
Oh, that's a tough one, but I will say cold. Yes,
Like,
cold.
you're fine with the snow and everything?
Yes. I
But
lived in Minnesota for
yeah,
7 years, so it prepared me. And now I'm from California, and we just had a heat wave, and I was like, enough. We had a heat wave up until September. I was like, please give me some bit of fall. So I'm cold.
you find it. And this is the last one because you've spoken about it so much. Living on a farm or in a city. Farm in a city.
City.
So that was you.
That was me, yes.
That was you.
Thankfully, my husband did not want to live on a farm, so
Yeah.
we're all good. Although we went to visit friends
Don't
who
see
lived on a
myself.
farm, and he was very tempted.
I don't see myself doing that either. It's like I would, go for a day or like a weekend, but um, I guess we just got used to our lifestyle. I used to there was a Spanish video circulating on the internet I think about a month ago of kids who've been brought up in the city and those who've been brought up on farms and countryside. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
I'll try to find it and then send it to you. It was actually such a beautiful one because it showed the differences, and it could, well, obviously it was trying to say that us city people are missing out on so many things and nature being attached to it. But then the kids were just, I learned so much, and I could tell that um, we are missing out on a few things, but I still love my internet and love my shopping malls and waffles and all of that.
I know. Yes, I mean, that's the thing, right? The ideal of the farm, like, we know that it's better, we know that it's good, but can I actually do it? And like you said, I could do it for a week. We could go for like, what do they call it? A farm stay and those things. And inshallah, if we can clean up the world, could all live a little bit closer to nature. That would be amazing.
That would be
Yeah.
great. Thank you
Well, I saw
so much.
someone had asked where to buy the book, and you can find the link to the book on my Instagram at Practical Muslim. And I know you will also have the link up too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and
Well,
DM
sure.
us and we can send you the link.
Definitely. People, go for it, go get it, go read it. Even if there is no one in your life right now, just go through those questions, have an understanding of what you truly want before, having, and then when someone finally comes up, be ready to have a conversation and don't be too hung up on the answers.
Exactly.
Right. Thank you so much. It was such a wonderful talk and chat. Thank you for everything that you've shared, and hopefully we get to have another one of these lives, inshallah, in the future.
Yes, inshallah, I would love it.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye bye.
You too. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.